Hi, I wanted to talk about something I am writing just to brainstorm and also just to get these ideas out there. Yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, I talked very bravely about um, the misunderstanding of sexual activity in our society and how it's gone the opposite direction from where it should go. People are addicted, people have a variety of issues and created a variety of avenues away from the reason we were given the ability to have sex in the first place. And I really encourage you to watch that video. It's a health issue, honestly. It's a health issue about our planet and about the state of humanity. And I talked about the book 50 Shades of Grey and talked about how that really sort of opens up what's really going on in our society in terms of lack of connection, and this yearning that's completely misplaced into romance or you know sadomasochism or whatever you want to do, and people are really craving that, but they're not honest enough with themselves and with their own issues to embrace real connection with your higher self, connection with your soul bits, or invisible realm as they can be referred to, and through that connection finding a resonation of soul and that spiritual life force in another person. It has nothing to do with ideology, nothing to do with principles necessarily. I mean, I'm a very principled person, I'm a very logical person, but it has really nothing to do with that sense of connection. But anyway, I've been thinking about writing about my journey with my husband for a very long time, because he, it sort of mirrors 50 Shades of Grey in that, romantic connection, but it's totally opposite because it's not about, control or desperation or feeling shitty about yourself, which is pretty much what and it's about overcoming your trauma and healing yourself, that's what my story is about. And very intense. We traveled all around the country. We had severely intense situations, in churches and hospitals where, he felt he was possessed and he felt suicidal and he was deprogramming, and I'm just being honest, deprogramming, and he was going through, beginning to really, people having their way with him when he was unconscious, and his drug use, and I was at the center of all this because I was the one instigating it because I thought it was important that he get better. And why did I think it was important he get better? Because I loved him. I mean, I saw within him a humanness, and he kind of advertised it to me because of the person I was at the time. This just came out of grad school, just philosophy, super philosophy, like philosophy will save the world. Somehow, if I write this paragraph today about this concept today, that it will somehow reverberate within the universe, which is actually true, and more people should do that. But I was very, very mission-oriented, feverish young person. And he wrote me this poem which was very spiritual, and it talked about time and space and how we were meeting like migration pattern of birds, and we didn't speak about this connection, but it was there, and he described that connection with a bunch of adjectives I can't recall right now. It didn't sensationalize it, but it made it this like very natural state of being a human and meeting another human that you resonate with. It had really nothing to do with love and flowers and sex and chocolate and Valentine's Day, and that's what so bothers me about the world, because I've had this experience and I'm reading this garbage, Twilight, 50 Shades of Grey, and people are missing out on the experience of feeling that connection with another person and having that profound effect and going through profound experiences, which could be very small, and writing about it in a way that captures it. I feel he was better at capturing it than I was. And I really wanted to write about that experience, but I was trying. I've actually been scribbling down notes about it for years. There are states that you go through in awakening, um, that you travel through, that sort of have a biblical sense to them. The first state is witnessing, which was what I spent most of my time with him doing. You're witnessing another person's awakening. You're witnessing what's going on. That sometimes that's all you can do. You show up and you're there and you just witness what they're going through, and you learn from it and you grow from that, because most of the time people are not trained in any spiritual way that actually helps people on this level. There's religion with deacons and choir boys and Sunday school, but it doesn't, or Hebrew school, but it doesn't give you the ability to access a person in a way that infuses them with soul and helps them push through whatever they're going through in their life, that helps them connect to the higher self. So the first stage is witnessing, and I went through crazy witnessing, crazy, 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 all over this country: New York, Alabama, Virginia, Washington State, Montana, all across this country, in all different kinds of venues where I was put witnessing. And witnessing is not just standing there going with your mouth hanging open. You have to have it very structured. You have to have a sort of fluid presence. You have to be able to just describe what they're going through. Why am I this way, Sarah? Why am I this way? Because you don't love yourself. To be able to be perceptive, to be intuitive, be able to see their struggle, and also learn from it and say, okay, well, he doesn't love himself. Do I love himself? I mean, to love myself, and why am I here? And to remember who you are and why you're there. And most people, I totally don't see that in these books, these romantic books that people are reading by the billions. The second stage is, I called it blessing, and these concepts I've had with me for 6, 7, 8 years. Blessing, it's when you have that fruition, when it finally all crystallizes within you. And most people think of babies as blessings, and they are sort of a physical manifestation of all of that, but most people don't understand that either, which is why this world reeks of child abuse. But blessing is this, the crystallization, the slow awakening, the blossoming within you of soul. And you don't need to stand there and witness anymore. You can still witness, not a biggie, but not to the extreme. It's more about you focusing on you and figuring out how you can connect to your higher self, and move on with that. Most people think they don't need to connect with other human beings. This is in the spiritual sort of guru area. They don't feel they need to connect with other human beings because humanity is going down the tubes. People can't foster that connection. It's not worth the struggle. And they don't understand that it is actually part of our mission on this planet. The reason we're here is so we can learn to do this, what I'm talking about. To be able to feel this and connect with another in a way that's quantum. It's just like, whoa! So you have witness, blessing, and the last is grace. There are obviously much more detailed specifics, like universal laws and vibrational levels and 3D levels, 4D, 5-dimensional levels. But this is within the human sort of meeting up with your higher self, meeting up with the levels that you can accomplish. The dimensional levels are external to us. Universal laws are external to us. These are the precepts, I would say, to universal laws. Witness, grace, and blessing and grace. Grace is, I think, amazing grace. How sweet the sound. It's that final space. I think the best description I can come up with, I don't know if people have seen the Matrix films, the final Matrix, when there's the sun, the sun's coming up, and they experience that they're accepting of their reality, but that they accepting of the reality in a way that's personal to them that they couldn't experience before when they were in the matrix. They still are in the matrix, but somehow they are able to overcome it by this interior sense of who they are and why they're there. And the characters have been able to establish between people who are in the matrix and part of the matrix and people who are natural, and they all are able to communicate in a way that resonates that feeling. That's pretty much what grace is. It's about pure acceptance, pure gratitude, and not, and people, this is very hard to get because people are so material and so influenced by greed. You can think of greed and the apex of greed, whatever that might be, a mansion, a Ferrari, a yacht, and owning your own country, to the apex of grace. They're actually opposite each other. They're opposite each other in a way that's very that has never, I don't think, ever been discussed. Which is really sad. Because when you achieve that fluid state of grace, you've accomplished everything on the human level that you can. I mean, you're still growing. I'm still growing. Have I gotten to grace yet? The Illuminati is actually making that pretty hard. It's making it a struggle just to live day to day. So I don't feel I've gotten to grace yet. I feel like I'm on the boundaries of grace. I think, and you can fluctuate between these levels. Sometimes you might hit a bump within your own stream of, energy, and you might be pushed back into witnessing position just to see. Or sometimes people will fall in your path and you reach out to them. What you witness a very small scale, maybe a few times a year. I've already had a couple this year, and unfortunately, most people aren't interested. So I'm glad if you're watching this that you are interested. So it's going to be those three stories. I don't know when I'm ever going to finish them. I just wanted to put information out there. Spiritual refugees. I was listening to the radio and that Tom Petty song Refugee came on. And what he was talking about, the person was abused and has been through hard times and they're behaving like a refugee. And like, what does that mean? The person who's not wanted, who has to accept another way of life, another world in order just to live. I think that's what he's talking about. If I was going to do a philosophy 101 on Tom Petty, I think that's what he's talking about. Spiritual refugees. Your life is no longer acceptable in the way you've been living it. And you're outcast from everything you know, even though you still go through the motions of your life. You still go to your job, you still hang out with your family, but something doesn't feel right. And this feeling of this emotional sense you don't belong and you don't know where to belong is is the beginning of being a refugee. And that's what I feel myself and my husband went through. Our lives were not going the way we thought they should. We couldn't get them to go in a way we wanted to. So we were completely eviscerated within the presence of each other, put on a spiritual path. And we were outside the framework of society, bouncing from state to state, going through these crazy harebrained experiences, and we were refugees. We weren't refugees with each other. Emotionally, it wasn't like we had a bad relationship and now we're all like, ah. But I think Tom Petty is hitting on something a little bit more serious than a bad breakup. But I think he's talking about some abusive situation. But that's what it means to be a spiritual refugee. I think there are probably hundreds, thousands, maybe millions. One could be hopeful, millions. And the stages of witness, blessing, and grace talk about how, people come home into themselves, and so I hope that's the concept of spiritual refugees, and I hope people are learning something from this. I don't know if you are.